The border is broken. Children are going missing. Where are they going? Who is responsible? These questions haunt the minds of those who dare to look closer. The border, once a symbol of hope and opportunity, has become a place of despair and uncertainty. Families are torn apart, and the most vulnerable among us, the children, are the ones who suffer the most. They disappear without a trace, leaving behind only the faintest whispers of their existence. The border is not just a line on a map, it is a battleground for human rights and dignity. These are not questions for the faint of heart. They require courage, determination, and an unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth. The answers are buried deep within a complex web of corruption, exploitation, and indifference. It is a crisis that demands our attention, our empathy, and our action. The silence surrounding this issue is deafening, and it is up to us to break it. We must shine a light on the darkness that engulfs these children and bring their stories to the forefront of our collective consciousness. These are questions that demand answers. The investigative journalists, the activists, the everyday citizens who refuse to look away, they are the ones who will uncover the truth. They are the ones who will hold those in power accountable. It is a daunting task, but it is one that must be undertaken. The lives of countless children depend on it. We must ask ourselves, what kind of society are we if we allow this to continue? What kind of future are we building if we do not protect the most vulnerable among us? The American dream is turning into a nightmare for thousands of vulnerable children. They come with hopes and dreams, seeking a better life, only to find themselves trapped in a system that does not care for them. They are lost in a maze of bureaucracy, exploitation, and neglect. Their dreams are shattered and their futures are uncertain. The promise of safety and opportunity has been replaced with fear and despair. These children deserve better. They deserve a chance to live, to grow, and to thrive. They come seeking safety only to vanish into the shadows. The darkness that swallows them is filled with predators who exploit their vulnerability. These children are not just statistics, they are human beings with hopes, dreams, and potential. They are our future, and we are failing them. The shadows are not just physical spaces, they are the spaces within our society where these children are forgotten, ignored, and abandoned. We must bring them into the light and give them the protection and care they deserve. We must confront an uncomfortable truth. America has a trafficking problem. It is a problem that thrives in the shadows, feeding on the desperation and vulnerability of those who seek a better life. It is a problem that implicates us all, for it is our collective indifference that allows it to persist. We must confront this reality head-on and take decisive action to dismantle the networks that exploit these children. We must demand accountability from those in power and ensure that justice is served. And it's happening right under our noses. In the bustling streets, in the crowded public spaces, in the places we pass by every day without a second thought. The signs are there if only we choose to see them. The victims are hidden in plain sight, their cries for help drowned out by the noise of our daily lives. We must open our eyes and our hearts to their plight. We must become the voices for those who cannot speak for themselves and the champions for those who have been silenced. The victims, migrant children lost in a system that seems designed to fail them. They are caught in a cycle of neglect and exploitation, with no one to turn to for help. They are the invisible casualties of a broken system, their suffering hidden behind the walls of detention centers and the facades of bureaucracy. We must recognize their humanity and fight for their rights. We must ensure that they are not just seen as numbers, but as individuals with inherent worth and dignity. The perpetrators? They lurk in the shadows, exploiting the cracks in our society's foundation. They are the traffickers, the abusers, the corrupt officials who profit from the suffering of others. They operate with impunity, knowing that the system is on their side, but we can change that. We can expose their crimes and bring them to justice. We can create a society where every child is safe, valued, and protected. It is a daunting task, but it is one that we must undertake. For the sake of the children, for the sake of our future, we must act now. The numbers are horrifying. The sheer scale of this crisis is almost unimaginable, yet it is a grim reality that we must confront. Each number represents a child, a life filled with potential, now lost in the chaos of migration and exploitation. These children, often fleeing from violence and poverty, embark on perilous journeys in search of safety and a better future. But instead of finding refuge, they vanish without a trace, swallowed by a system that fails to protect them. Hundreds of thousands of migrant children have gone missing in recent years. This staggering figure is not just a statistic, it represents countless individual tragedies. Each missing child is a story of hope turned into despair, of innocence exploited by those who prey on the vulnerable. These children are often separated from their families, left to navigate a dangerous world alone. They are easy targets for traffickers, who see them as nothing more than commodities to be bought and sold. Tara Rodas, a brave whistleblower, risked her career to expose the truth. She stepped forward, driven by a moral imperative to shine a light on the dark underbelly of this crisis. Her courage has brought much-needed attention to the plight of these children. Tara's revelations have sparked outrage and calls for action, but the road to justice is long and fraught with challenges. Her story is a testament to the power of one voice to make a difference, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her testimony before Congress sent chills down our spines. She recounted harrowing tales of children being handed over to traffickers, of bureaucratic failures that allowed these atrocities to happen. Her words painted a stark picture of a system in disarray where the most vulnerable are left to fend for themselves. The hearings were a wake-up call, a stark reminder that we cannot turn a blind eye to this humanitarian crisis. We must demand accountability and systemic change to protect these children. She revealed that the system designed to protect these children is failing them. Overwhelmed and under-resourced, social workers and agencies struggle to keep up with the sheer volume of cases. Paperwork piles up and children slip through the cracks. The bureaucracy meant to safeguard their well-being becomes a labyrinthine obstacle course that few can navigate. This systemic failure is not just a bureaucratic issue. It is a moral failing that demands urgent attention and reform. Imagine being a child, ripped from your family, smuggled across borders, only to end up in the clutches of traffickers. Forced labor, sexual exploitation, even organ harvesting. These are not just distant nightmares. They are the grim realities faced by many of these children. Their innocence is stolen, their futures shattered. They are forced into lives of unimaginable suffering, their cries for help often going unheard. This is a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, and it demands our immediate and unwavering attention. These are not just abstract horrors. They are the lived experiences of countless children who disappear into the shadows. Each child has a name, a face, a story. They are not just numbers or statistics. They are human beings with dreams and aspirations, now trapped in a nightmare. The fear and trauma they endure are beyond comprehension. We must bring their stories to light to ensure that they are not forgotten, that their suffering is not in vain. Their voices deserve to be heard. We must stand in solidarity with these children to amplify their cries for justice. The protests and vigils are a testament to the growing awareness and outrage. But awareness is not enough. We need action. We must push for policies that protect these children, for resources that support their recovery, and for justice that holds perpetrators accountable. Only then can we hope to end this cycle of exploitation and give these children the future they deserve. How can this happen in a country that prides itself on freedom and opportunity? How can such a paradox exist in the land of the free? The answer lies in a tangled web of bureaucracy, a system so complex and convoluted that it often fails the very people it is meant to serve. The Department of Homeland Security, tasked with securing our borders, is overwhelmed. With limited resources and increasing demands, the system is stretched thin. The Department of Health and Human Services, responsible for the well-being of unaccompanied minors, is struggling to keep up. The sheer volume of cases and the lack of adequate funding make it nearly impossible to provide the necessary care and oversight. The result? A system rife with loopholes, ripe for exploitation. Children are being released to sponsors without proper vetting. Follow-up is minimal, accountability is non-existent. This lack of oversight creates a dangerous environment where vulnerable children can easily fall through the cracks. The consequences are dire, with many children ending up in unsafe situations, exploited or even trafficked. It's a recipe for disaster, and the consequences are devastating. We must demand better. Our children deserve better. The system needs a complete overhaul, with increased funding, better training for staff, and more stringent oversight to ensure that every child is protected. It's not just about fixing the system, it's about restoring faith in our institutions. It's about ensuring that every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to grow up in a safe and nurturing environment. We owe it to them, and we owe it to ourselves to create a system that truly works for everyone. The political blame game rages on. Democrats point fingers at Republicans, accusing them of indifference to the plight of immigrants. Republicans counter by blaming Democrats for lax border policies. Meanwhile, children continue to disappear. The truth is, both parties share responsibility for this crisis. Years of failed policies, partisan gridlock, and a refusal to address the root causes of migration have created this humanitarian disaster. We must rise above the political fray and demand action. The time for finger-pointing is over. The time for solutions is now.